Well, I think we're all here that ought to be here. Anybody who's not here is welcome to come whenever. Oh, well, we're going to have some fun today. We're going to barge into the first agreement, see what it has to offer us. Shall we head into our home space to start us off? So why don't we do that now and place our attention on our breath, or 3 deep breaths. In breath. Om. Shanti, shanti, shanti. The 4 agreements. We're going to focus on the first one today. And why do we need the 4 agreements? There's something interesting from the Upanishads. Like a ball batted back and forth, a human being is batted by 2 forces within. As human beings, we have a divided nature, partly physical, but essentially spiritual. We are constantly battered by 2 conflicting forces. One force is the fierce downward thrust of our past conditioning as separate, self-oriented, physical creatures. And we'll look at that today, how we got in that state. Yet built into our very nature is an inner drive that will not let us be satisfied with a life governed only by biological laws. Some inner evolutionary imperative is constantly exhorting us to grow, to reach for the highest that we can conceive. And these 4 agreements help us to move and grow on that path. And the first one is, which we're going to focus on today, is be impeccable with your word. Be impeccable with your word. Usually when we see this agreement, we think about outside, how others speak outside of us or how we speak to others. But there's a deeper message for this, be impeccable with your word, and that's what we're going to get into today. Be impeccable with your word. So here's a summary where we have come so far. As an infant, you, and just you, are your message to the world. And later on, you learn to use symbols, words, language, symbols to deliver your message. It's not just you, it's your symbols. Through the attention, you gather knowledge. The symbols you learn, everything you learn goes into your mind by agreement. So where do we gather knowledge? From our attention and our minds. The thoughts. The symbols you learn, the words you learn, everything you learn goes into your mind by agreement. If you didn't agree, it wouldn't go in. But of course, as little kids, we mostly agree with everything. We want to be loved and please the humans around us who are getting our attention, asking us to agree. The
I think that's
voice,
crucial to say that.
what's that, Sam?
Yeah, I think it's crucial to take a moment here and pause and to reiterate that our parents, when they were doing the best they could, that as children, we're just seeking their love, right? And that's very important because how we were raised and the information we were taught becomes a belief system and value systems in terms of where we live and the whole society, specifically in our family upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
So the symbols, the words, the attentions, and what matters to us as adults largely comes from our parents' programming.
They programmed us.
Yeah, the domesticated part.
But we couldn't have been programmed if we were unwilling. Turns out we were willing. We wanted
Right.
to be approved, wanted to be loved, so we agreed. And it's important that we understand that we got our belief system and everything our parents and siblings taught us through agreement. It was through agreement. In other words, we had a part in it. So it was a choice and a decision we made. And recognizing that, it helps give us the freedom to, where we find it useful, change our agreements. Change our agreements. So that's where the 4 agreements come in. Once we got our belief systems in place, he calls our belief systems the voice of knowledge. It never stops talking. It speaks your truths. For example, nobody's perfect. Might be one of your truths or might not. It's not one of my truths, but it's a lot of truth for a lot of people. In the beginning, opinions of the humans around us start entering over our mind, like Sam was saying. Everybody has an opinion of us, parents in particular. As young children, we don't know what we are. The only way we can see ourselves is through a mirror, and other humans act as that mirror. So whatever we are, when we say I am, all the I ams we got, we obtained from the humans around us. So we see ourselves through the I ams, and the other humans act as that mirror. When we say I am this, other humans say, yeah, you are that. Our mother tells us what we are, and we believe her. We're a good boy. If you had a mother who was kind, you're a bad boy. Too bad if someone had a mother who told them that. It's completely different from what our father tells us, what our brothers and sisters tell us. We may know about families where the mother is very loving and says kind things to the child, if the child is a boy, because boys are honored. But the father may want the boy to be brought up tough. So the father may say something harsh on the boy, hoping to make him strong so he can deal with the adversities in the world. And in some cultures, a mother tells their daughter negative things because the mother grew up with negative things and she doesn't have a high opinion of herself and gives that same opinion to her daughter, whereas the father may cherish the daughter. So all different possibilities for how we're brought up. But we agree with all of them. Why? Why do we agree with all of them? We have faith in the voice of knowledge, belief system. that we put into our minds by agreement. They got our attention, and then they're by agreement. So our voice of knowledge is our mind, the voice of our knowledge, our quote truths. Look, you have the eyes of your mother, the nose of your grandfather. Someone told me when I was a child, oh, your grandfather on your mother's side is bald. So that's inherited through your mother's father. So you'll probably be bald as well. And well, look at me, not much hair left. So that's a belief I got, and I don't quarrel with it. My sister got the nose of our mother. I got the nose of my father. I got the eyes of my mother. We listen to all the opinions of our family, our teachers, and big children at school. I may have told you this before, but I liked math. I was pretty good at it, and that was my major in college. One of the opinions I got was from a teacher that I revered, and that teacher was my math teacher, and he inspired me. What he used to say was, there's always room at the top. There's always room at the top. That inspired me. I never forgot it. And for me, it meant that if I worked hard and got good at something, there would always be room, always be a job. So I never had to worry about jobs as long as I was good at what I was doing. And of course, the big children at school may tell us things as well. We see our image in those mirrors. We agree that this is what we are. Always room at the top. That's what I am. As soon as we agree, that opinion becomes part of our belief system, like Sam was saying. Little by little, all these opinions modify our behavior. In our mind, we form an image of ourselves according to what other people say we are. For example, that belief that I had, there's always room at the top, modified my behavior. I just never worried about a job. I just believed that if I was really good at something and told those who were looking to hire people that I was good at it and could be better, I just never had a problem getting a job. Of course, one day I got laid off and there weren't any jobs. And that belief was no help whatsoever. And I got really depressed. I didn't have a belief to deal with getting laid off. So I had to find some new beliefs going through that period of depression in my life. So we may not get all of the opinions that we require or useful for us from our upbringing. We have an image of ourselves according to what other people say we are. Oh, I could never be fired. That was my image. Well, they fired me. They called it a layoff. It was in the defense industry. You know, in the defense industry, companies would get a contract and hire a lot of people. They'd lose a contract, they let everybody go. It was just part of what I realized was the agreement when I worked for a defense company. You had to be willing to take the good times and know that when the contract was lost, you'd be laid off, not to find another job. I wasn't aware of that agreement when I took that job. I learned a painful way that no agreement. I'm beautiful. I'm not so beautiful. I'm smart. I'm not so smart. I'm a winner. I'm a loser. I'm good at this. I'm bad at that. Any of you have some image building that where you learn you're good at some things and bad at other things? I was good at math. I would say that people would say, oh, math is so hard. I say, oh, well, it's easy for me and I'm good at it. However, I wasn't very good at handwriting. They taught handwriting, cursive handwriting in those days. And I prided myself on getting all good grades, was encouraged by my family to get good grades. I never failed anything, but there was one subject in which I got a D, handwriting. My mother kept all of my report cards all throughout elementary school. Kept put them in a box. I got that box. It's downstairs in the crawl space. Went and looked at it the other day, looking up some things. Looked at all those old report cards, and sure enough, there it was, handwriting, D. And I think she told me, oh, you're bad at handwriting. So I thought, oh, I'm bad at handwriting. Then, however, I rebelled against that label. And in later life, I took up writing. What do you call the writing when you write script?
Penmanship?
Pardon?
Penmanship?
Calligraphy?
Oh,
Calligraphy.
yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you. The word's calligraphy. I took up calligraphy and I got quite good at it. So I turned into a good handwriter. I was good at that. All the labels. At a certain point, all of the opinions of our parents and teachers, religion and society, original sin and all that, make us believe that we need to be a certain way in order to be accepted. We need to be a certain way. They tell us the way we should be, the way we should look, the way we should behave. Part of our domestication.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be this way. We shouldn't be that way. It may not be okay for us to be what we are. See, all those symbols in our head are not what we are. What we are, remember the green thing I held up? The green puck?
A puck, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Remember the green puck? That was real. But the name of it, puck, how I wrote it, puck, how I described it, good puck, bad puck, that was all in my head. So it may not be okay for us to be what we are because we have ideas in our head that are in conflict with how we experience ourselves. Imagine, I don't think this applies to any of us, but imagine the conflict that you have if you grow up as a gay person or a lesbian person. I had a friend in later life who was a gay man, and we were close friends. He looked at me like a brother, and I was glad he said that. He had a brother who died, and he looked at me like his brother. We were close friends. He told me how tough it was for him to be what he was, and he never felt comfortable telling his father that he was a gay man. And his father died without him having told him that, and experiencing being loved for what he was. Should be this way, not another way. So we start pretending to be what we are not. In the case of my gay friend, he married a woman. He was a doctor, by the way, a nurse. He married a nurse. Interestingly enough, this nurse that he married was a dominating, large woman, very assertive, just the opposite of what he was. And he had two beautiful daughters through that marriage. Then later on, they split up when he went his own way. So he was pretending to be what he was not. The voice of knowledge guides us. Voice of knowledge guides us. The fear of being rejected becomes the fear of not being good enough. Not being good enough. We start searching for something that we call perfection. In our search, we form an image of perfection, the way we wish to be, but we know that we are not. And we begin to judge ourselves for that. Imagine my gay friend who was given an image of perfection for men in a way that he wished he could be, but knew he wasn't. So he judged himself for not being that image of perfection that he had acquired through his domestication. We don't like ourselves, and we tell ourselves, look how silly you look, how ugly you are, look how fat, too fat, how short, how weak, how stupid you are. Now, we may have heard these labels put upon us during our childhood and adolescent years. If someone said how silly you look, they probably got our attention. And then, depending on the rest of our voice of knowledge, we either agreed or didn't agree with that label that someone put upon us. But whether we agreed or didn't agree, if someone did call us something like that, how weak, how fat, how short, how stupid, even though we didn't agree, we may still to this day remember the time when we were called that label and it hurt. We were upset, it hurt. We may still be able to recall when that label was put upon us. This is where we're heading with be impeccable with your word.
Mm-hmm.
You see that?
Yep.
First,
Oftentimes,
go ahead, Sam.
I was going to say, oftentimes the person who says this is has well intentions, but they're self-projecting their own thoughts.
Sure.
Of self.
Second agree.
Yeah, and indirectly, it creates this belief system within ourselves, and we carry it around like baggage, and we don't know how to sit with it to allow us to feel the feeling of being hurt, and then more in the process to fully let go and appreciate how do I say this? Appreciate the process of this interdependent living we're going through within a context of our friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, interesting, very much. Thank you.
Sure.
It's also, we have to make a choice as to whether that statement is going to alter the words that we're saying to ourselves.
Right.
Yes.
And if we use affirmations rather than these belief systems of these opinions, which are not true, I think that's one of the reasons I like Unity Church so much, because we pride ourselves on the positive affirmations of these judgmental thoughts.
Mhm.
So let's look carefully at these judgmental thoughts and what the process is. If someone looked at us and said, oh, you look like a Martian, something else silly, we might just laugh. We wouldn't agree. They got our attention. We think it's funny. So in order for these labels to stick, we have got to come to some agreement. Maybe when someone puts that label on us, there was some place inside of us where we were afraid and fearful that we were that thing that the label labels us. Short, fat. We got that idea someplace. So when the outside source says, oh, look how ugly you are, it just reaffirms something we were afraid that we were. They got our attention, and now we agree with the thing we were afraid about. Now we realize it's true, ugly, and we agree. If we don't agree, if someone says something that just doesn't make sense to us, it doesn't even, it bounces right off of us, doesn't go inside. So it's the crucial step of agreement, however that process takes place. And of course, if we can get back in touch with when we made that agreement, that's a good opportunity to change it. And sometimes, like you pointed out, Sam, the affirmations that we speak can inadvertently bring up these old ancient agreements. How beautiful you are today. You are so beautiful. Might bring up the time when someone says, you're an ugly person.
Mhm.
And through the affirmation, we can look back at that agreement we made and say, nope, letting that one go. Turns out I'm actually beautiful. Anyway, when we hear these labels, that's when the drama begins. Because now the symbols are going against us. Remember that green thing? I called it a puck. It's a green puck. It's a bad puck. It's a good puck. So are the symbols of that real thing, that green thing I showed you, going against what the truth is, or is it going for the truth? Some of our symbols go against us. We don't even notice that we've learned to use the symbols to reject ourselves. Anybody having an inferiority complex when they were back in school? It was sort of a common thing. We used to say, oh, so-and-so has an inferiority complex. Maybe we were afraid that we had one too. Of course, we projected ourselves as being perfectly okay. We wouldn't want anyone to know if we had an inferiority complex, but we could see it in others. So to the extent that we suspected that we also suffered from an inferiority complex, it was just a particular aspect of rejecting ourselves. Learn the symbols to reject ourselves. Before domestication, we didn't care what we are or what we look like. We didn't care a bit. Our tendency is at that time to explore, to express our creativity, say whatever comes to our mind. We seek pleasure and avoid pain. We just go for life naturally before all those symbols get in our heads. As little children, we are wild and free, mostly free of the voice of knowledge. I think that's why in the scriptures, when the little children came to bother Jesus, he said, no, no, suffer the little children, because they were free, free of the voice of knowledge. We run around naked without self-consciousness or self-judgment. One day when my eldest daughter was about 4 years old, I think, she could walk, she ran around, but she couldn't, she wasn't in school yet, 4 years old. She was out in the backyard playing in one of those little pools, you know, the little rubber pools that little kids play in. Anyway, she was playing out there. And I was at work. My wife told me the story. My wife went back out and she wasn't there anymore. She was naked as a blue jay and she wasn't there anymore. Anyway, my little daughter, who was wild and free, took off, and the elementary school wasn't too far away. She went down to the elementary school naked as a blue jay. There she was. She wasn't self-conscious about it. She had no judgment. She was just traveling around. So the school called, said, I think your daughter's here, and my wife went down to pick her up. No self-consciousness. Perfectly okay. We speak the truth. We live the truth. Our attention is in the moment. Of course, when you run around naked like that, you need to be domesticated. So you learn some do's and don'ts and what's goods and bads. And you're called to agree with your mother. Don't run around naked if you want to be loved.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she learned that. I don't recall her doing it again. We live the truth. Attention's in the moment. We are not afraid of the future. There is no future. We're just right now. And we're not ashamed of the past. No shame. We're just going for it, wild and free. After domestication, we try to be good enough for everybody else. Wear our clothes when we go out. That's what domesticated people do. We want to be good enough. But we may not be good enough for ourselves. We may not be honoring who we really are. Now, even if who you really are is loving to be naked and run around naked, it'll probably get you in trouble these days if that's your character. So if you like running around naked, maybe you should join a nudist colony and let go of your urge there. Because we can never live up to our image of perfection, all of our normal human tendencies are lost in the process of domestication. Human tendencies. Well, they may not be lost, but they sure could be suppressed. And we begin to search for what we have lost. And the voice of knowledge guides us. So if we're feeling that we've lost something at some point in life, what do we use to help search for that? Our voice of knowledge. We search for freedom because we are no longer free to be what we really are. We search for freedom. I think of my gay friend, searching for freedom because we are no longer free to be what we really are. In my life, I always felt pretty free to be what I was, for the most part. And when something happened that got in the way of my freedom to be whoever I really was, it was a time for a lesson in life. We search for freedom. We search for happiness because we may no longer be happy. You remember it says in the preamble to the Constitution, the pursuit of happiness, pursuit of happiness. We search for it. So we may be searching for happiness. Why? Because we're not happy. We search for beauty because we no longer believe that we are beautiful. So maybe in our homes we put objects of beauty. Maybe we search for a spouse who's beautiful to offset ourselves, because someplace in ourselves we may believe that we're not beautiful. So we search for it. We continue to grow. In adolescence, our body is programmed to make hormones. Remember the hormones? They sit in about 12 years old, I think, right? Hormones. Our physical body's no longer a child's. We no longer fit in with our old way of life. We don't want to hear our parents tell us what and not what to do anymore.
Mm-hmm.
No, now it's our turn to tell them what to do. We already heard that. We want our freedom to be ourselves as adolescents. But we may also be afraid to be by ourselves. People say you're not a child anymore, but we're not an adult either. We struggle to get our act together. Remember, that was the purpose of our adolescence, to get our act together, to find out what worked and what didn't work, so we could get our act together so that we wouldn't be rejected. No one would find out about our inferiority complex, and we would be loved and be part of the group. Well, at least some of the group, not all the group. Remember when you went to high school, your name was a boy or a girl, and yet you're getting pretty old. And then if you happen to go to college, as I did, suddenly you became a man. We were called men and women. It seemed strange. I thought I was still a boy. But everybody began calling me a man. I call myself, we all called ourselves a man. We tried to fit into that role. In other words, to get our act together. As teenagers, we're fully domesticated. We've learned to judge ourselves, punish ourselves, and reward ourselves. We've learned all that. That's why it's so easy for us to start judging our parents, because we've learned that skill, judgment. We can even punish ourselves and reward ourselves, all according to the belief system we were given by the humans, using their system of punishment and reward. So all these agreements got into us. So many agreements. We're not aware of all of them. They're just who we are. The domestication may be easier for people in some places in the world, harder for people in other places. None of us has a chance of escaping the domestication. None of us. We all got domesticated. There was once a child that was abandoned to the wilderness, and somehow got by until he was a little older, living in the wilderness. They found him and brought him into civilization, and they had to domesticate that child so the child could be part of civilization. I remember that story. Finally, the body matures, we become adults, everything changes yet again. Now what we're searching for is our self. Our self. In unity, we call that the Christ consciousness. In our studies of the Bhagavad Gita, it was called the Atman, self. Searching for ourself. We are searching for love. Why? Why are we searching for love? We learn to believe that love is somewhere outside of us. So we're looking for it. We're searching for love. We have an agreement with ourselves that love is outside of us, so we go looking for it. We in Unity know that this isn't true, don't we? So where is love? Where does it exist? We know. If we want to search for love, where do we need to search? Inside. We need to search inside, don't we?
Mhm.
We have some idea that love is outside of ourselves. We watch these TV shows. What is it, The Bachelor, or I don't know. I don't watch it. But where one attractive young woman is presented with 4 or 5 attractive young males, she gets to pick the one that she'll select who will love her and who she can love. We think that love's outside of ourselves. So perhaps when we choose our spouse, it has something to do with wanting to be loved by that person and wanting to have them available for us to love. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't work out. So where does love need to be? It's the Bible tells us, actually, searching for love. When I tell you this, you'll remember. The Bible says, love thy God with all thy heart, all thy mind, and all thy strength. Where is God? Why, it's just all of us, isn't it? It's inside of us. So when we love our God or our Christ consciousness or the divine in ourselves with all our heart and all our mind and all our strength, we are just love.
Mm.
And in that warmth of love, who we are, our marriages will blossom with the love that we are. And all of our relationships will blossom with the love that we are. We will only see love. When we look out at conflict, a part of us will just look for love as well. Look for love. So to the extent that we are love, we see love. I went to a seminar, I think it was at Unity, yes, it was. A guy named Harvey taught it. And he told us, and I've read this elsewhere, oh, you shouldn't love things, you should love people. Things are just to use. Use things and love people. Well, this didn't sit well with me. Because you all know that I love my car, my Mercedes.
Love you, God.
I love my car. So in the hallway, we were heading out to the men's room. I told him that. I said, well, you know, I love my car. He says, oh, no, you should just use it. Love people, not your car. Didn't sit well with me. Why? Because when love is who you are, it extends to everything, not just to people,
Mhm.
but also cars. Just because you love your car doesn't mean you don't love people. That's the way I used to be. When I was an adolescent, I had a phony belief. I believed I could never, ever, ever tell any girl I loved her. And I didn't. Although I loved some girls. Why couldn't I tell them I loved them? Because if you told a girl you loved her, that means you were stuck forever. You couldn't love anybody else. You were stuck with that one. And who wants to be stuck as an adolescent? I did, and I wanted to be free. So I expected the girls to tell me that they loved me. I was looking at my old annual, and sure enough, some of the girls said, "Oh, I hope you're successful, and love Linda and love Nancy," and so on. I thought, well, that's okay for girls, not boys. If I told any of those girls I loved them, I'd be stuck forever. So love is who we are. The more we love, the more we can love. It's not outside us, it's inside of us. So when I say that I love you to someone, I feel like I'm being impeccable with my word. When I love someone and don't tell them I love you, I feel like I'm not being impeccable with my word. I'm withholding some part of my natural, free little child that wants to express itself. I love you. That's who I am. Some are still searching for love. In the beginning, we are searching for justice. Why? In the belief system we were taught, our voice of knowledge says there is no justice. This may be more true for some than others. I think it's true for many young people of color who were brought up to believe there is no justice because they may have experienced the lack of justice in their interactions with the world. We are searching for truth. Why? We only believe in the knowledge we have stored in our mind. We only believe in the knowledge we've stored in our mind. Somehow that's not enough for us. Searching for truth. We search for freedom because we are no longer free to be what we really are. We search for happiness because we're not totally happy. We search for beauty because we no longer believe that we are beautiful. This may or may not be true for you. We are searching for perfection. Why? We agree with the other humans that nobody's perfect. Searching for perfection. Remember, someone, I think you, Sam, asked me in a last session to give me an example of something that's perfect. Remember that? And I piped right up, me. Because all being perfect means is everything that's supposed to be there is there. And there's nothing not supposed to be there that isn't there. It's just the way things are is perfection.
You know, and it's so programmed in me anyway, probably most of us, that when I find myself trying to even utter the words "I'm perfect," I kind of like, what? There's a mental block. I can't even say it. I can't even say it.
Well, go ahead and say it just for fun. Just pretend like you are.
I'm perfect.
Just pretend.
Yes, you are.
Pretend.
I'm perfect.
You're perfect in God's eyes.
That's right. That's exactly. And I believe that. But when I hear myself saying it or even thinking about it, I kind of chuckle to myself. It's interesting, the deep belief of that one.
Well, since we're in charge of what we want other people to believe about ourselves, whether it's true or not, we could choose to say, well, I'm going to change my act in the world. I don't believe it, but I want other people to believe it. I'm going to fool everybody else. So I'm going to go tell everybody I'm perfect as part of my act, just to fool people, even though I know I'm not.
Yeah.
Of course, I warn you, if you do that, strange thing might happen. You might transform into perfection. So if we say we're not perfect, are we being impeccable with our word? That's the question.
That depends on how everybody else feels about perfect, I think. What you're talking about when you're talking about perfect. If you adopt the position that I'm perfect, I mean, with all my flaws, I'm perfect. Those flaws are there for a reason. I like them. They're mine, and that's great. But perfect, if you adopt other people's definition of perfect, no, I can't ride a bicycle as fast as somebody else. And saying that nobody's perfect actually is quite freeing, because I don't feel the need to ride a bicycle as fast as somebody else.
Well, as I look at a perfect Susan, I see that your perfection lies in riding a bicycle exactly the way you ride a bicycle. And I see the way other people's riding bicycles, their perfection, and the way you ride your bicycle is your perfection. And you
Right.
are perfectly perfect in the way you ride your bicycle. But I do agree with you that other people have reactions about perfection. So we don't want to upset others or try and teach them or fix them. But it
We don't
doesn't.
want to buy.
Pardon?
We don't want to buy into what other people
Right.
say is perfect
Right.
for us.
Good point. Yep.
It's like Buddhadasa told us, we can have our conversations with others in the outside world, and then we can have our own internal Dhamma language. I am perfect. That's our Dhamma language, which we tell ourselves, comfort ourselves. And when everyone else goes around saying, oh, nobody's perfect, we just laugh and say, oh, yeah, nobody's perfect. And then we remind ourselves that we are perfect and they are. And if they're not ready to see it, that's okay. Go with the flow. We're going to challenge some more of our ideas about be impeccable with your word next week. But we need to close now because it's time to close. Any final comments before we close?
That was fun. Thank you, Steve. I appreciated hearing that again.
Me too. It was perfect.
Yes, thank you.
Truly was perfect.
Perfect. Well, let's close with our going into our deep part of ourselves and focusing on our breath for 3 breaths. Now with a deep in breath. Shanti. And we want to thank Jan's birds for their beautiful music.
Yeah,
Roaming with us.
tried to turn them off for a while.
Oh, they're delightful.
We enjoyed them. So we need to head off for the service. So we'll see you in a week or so.
Have
Love
a
you.
good week.
Love you, Sam.
Bye-bye.
Love you,
Bye-bye.
Susan. Love you, Jan. Love you, Della.
Love all you perfect people.
All perfect.
You too.
All perfect.
Bye-bye.